Peace be upon you. Please subscribe to the channel for new videos and press the bell icon. Thank you. Welcome, dear friends. Human history is a treasure trove of wonder, mystery, and astonishing tales. Did you know that people sacrificed children to their gods in ancient times? That they crafted flying carpets and soared through the skies? Or that they performed skull surgeries and somehow put everything back together? Some ancient texts even speak of beings who descended from the stars into the valleys of Babylon and Nineveh. And in the shadowy temples of Egypt, sorcerers were said to breathe life into stone. In this series, we'll take you on a journey through the most extraordinary, mind-bending stories from across the ages, episode by episode. Prepare to be amazed, intrigued, and enlightened like never before. Today's series is called Amber Naag Maria. Amber Naag Maria is a series that was very popular in Pakistan during the 1970s and 1980s. When I first read it, I found it very fascinating. It is an interesting story based on three friends, one of whom is named Amber. He belongs to an ancient Egyptian royal family and possesses some special powers. These three friends travel through different eras, encountering strange and mysterious events along the way. Friends, there are two parts to this series. The first part is titled Pursuit of Death and consists of around 100 episodes. After that, their journey of return begins, which also contains more than 100 parts. But the series we are about to present now is titled Pursuit of Death. It will have 100 episodes, and today we present to you the first episode. In the lap of death. It is now past midnight. On the dark blue sky of ancient Egypt, stars are shining like white pearls. The time we are talking about is approximately 4,750 years ago, when the history of our civilization was just beginning. This was the era of the pharaohs of Egypt. The reflection of the stars is shimmering in the blue waters of the Nile River. Clusters of date palms stretch along the riverbanks, and here and there are thickets of olive and fig trees. The city of Thebes is asleep. The tired people, exhausted from the day's labor, are resting in their mud brick homes. Occasionally, the voice of a night guard echoes through the deserted streets. Outside the city, on the banks of the Nile, a sturdy house has a lamp burning with olive oil. In the light of this lamp, a middle-aged woman is searching through a wooden chest for a stone measuring tape. Standing beside her is a boy around 12 to 14 years old, named Amber. Amber's father is working 4 or 5 miles away in the desert at a pyramid construction site. Amber's father's name is Rigjaw. He is a skilled architect of pyramids, the triangular stone structures where the dead pharaohs were embalmed and buried along with their slaves, maids, and treasures of gold and silver. In truth, Amber is not the biological son of this old woman and Rigjaw. 12 to 13 years ago, they found Amber floating on the waves of the Nile in a small boat. At that time, a cruel pharaoh ruled Egypt. Astrologers had predicted that a boy born in the pharaoh's palace would one day poison and kill him. The pharaoh ordered that any newborn child in the palace be killed immediately. Within 4 to 5 years, every child born in the palace was executed. Then, one night, Amber was born to Queen Nafriti. The queen, fearing for her child's life, knew that if the pharaoh found out, he would have him killed. With the help of one of her maids, she placed the baby in a small boat and set him adrift on the Nile. She believed that a farmer or fisherman would find him and raise him, and at least he would survive. If God willed, she hoped she might one day meet her son again. The Pharaoh was told that the queen had given birth to a stillborn girl who had been buried. Meanwhile, the little boat carrying baby Amber floated far away on the Nile. At daybreak, Rigjal, a middle-aged engineer working by the river, noticed the boat. Finding the baby inside, he took him home. Since he and his wife had no children of their own, they were overjoyed and began to raise Amber as their own son. Amber grew up in their home and had now reached the age of 14. He had never been told that he was not their biological son. He believed Rigjal and his wife were his real parents. They loved Amber as if he were truly their own child. Amber had been working with his father since childhood and was learning the craft of building pyramids. At the same time, he was also learning from his father how to use herbs and wild plants to make medicines and treat illnesses. That night, he was helping his father build a new pyramid about 4 coasts, an ancient unit of distance, away from the city. Rigjal always kept Amber close to him at work. Suddenly, the stone measuring tape broke. Rigjal sent Amber home to fetch a new one from the chest. Amber rode a horse home and told his mother that his father had sent him to bring a new tape. His mother searched the chest, found a new measuring tape, and handed it to him, saying,
"Amber, my son, here's the tape. Be careful on your way back."
"Don't worry, Mother. I am a brave son of an engineer father."
"May God protect you, my son."
Amber put the measuring tape in his pocket, mounted his horse, and galloped along the bank of the Nile towards the pyramid. It was nighttime. The groves of olives and date palms, cloaked in darkness, looked like ghosts from a distance. But Amber felt no fear because he often worked with his father at night and had passed through this route many times. Along the way, at the base of a sand dune, there was a small fig orchard with a hut where a hermit named Anatul lived. Anatul loved Amber dearly. Amber saw Anatul sitting in front of his hut, praying to God. As Amber passed by on his horse, he greeted him, and Anatul opened his eyes to watch Amber ride by before closing them again. Anatul knew that Amber was actually the son of Queen Nefriti, a prince and descendant of the pharaohs of Egypt, not the biological son of the engineer Rigjal. However, Anatul had never told Amber the truth because he knew that revealing it would only bring danger. If the pharaoh learned that his son was secretly being raised in Rigjal's house, he would surely have him captured and killed. The pharaoh had already ordered the deaths of many royal children born within the palace. Amber could now see the pyramid where his father Rigjal was working alongside other laborers and craftsmen. On the pharaoh's orders, a special pyramid was being built for his aging grandfather, who was nearing the end of his life. The pharaoh Atun had commanded that the pyramid be completed as soon as possible, which was why Rigjal had to work even at night. Upon reaching the pyramid, Amber handed the tape to his father and started helping with the work. Rigjal marked the large cut, square stones with an iron chisel, while Amber painted the marks white for memory. The father and son were working in the lower chamber of the pyramid, where the body of the old pharaoh was to be placed inside a coffin. The walls of the chamber were lined with precious stones, and in the center was a grand marble platform where the pharaoh's coffin would be laid to rest forever. Golden candlesticks lit the alcoves in the walls. There was only one entrance to this chamber, sealed by a massive stone slab. After placing the coffin inside, the slab would slowly slide shut on its own, and no one would be able to open it again. At that time, it was customary that when a king died, his servants, maidens, food supplies, utensils, bed, and all his gold and jewelry were buried with him. People believed that in the afterlife, the king would need all these things. This is why 5,000 years later, when the Egyptian pyramids were excavated, archaeologists found the skeletal remains of slaves and maidens inside the tombs. For now, we are speaking of the time when these pyramids were still under construction. While Amber and Rigjal were working, a house servant named Polka entered the chamber carrying a white marble slab to be placed on the platform. He set the slab on the ground, wiped the sweat off his forehead, and said,
"Great master, building these royal tombs has given me blisters on my hands. If I were a king, I would never have a tomb built."
Rigjal smiled and replied,
Polka, if you were a pharaoh, I would have built you the grandest tomb.
Amber said,
Polka, who knows? Maybe you'll become a king next year.
Polka, a sturdy man of about 40 with the strength of an ox, laughed and said,
"Young Master Amber, I don't have such luck. I was born a slave and will die a slave."
The old Rigjal said,
Don't worry, Polka. I will preserve your body and bury you in a royal tomb.
Polka burst into laughter and replied,
"Master, let these stone-hearted tombs remain for kings. A simple earthen grave will be enough for me. But sometimes I do dream of becoming a king, eating roasted peacocks, venison, and partridges, savoring apples from Khartoum and sweet figs from Jerusalem, sleeping on soft beds, while slaves fan me with peacock feathers."
Old Rigjal chuckled and said,
For now, get up and bring in more stone from outside. You can dream about being a king later.
Polka got up from the ground and left the chamber, muttering,
"Oh, poor Polka. Your fate is to keep toiling forever."
After he left, Rigjal and Amber laughed for a long time. Polka was their very loyal servant. Rigjal had bought him from the slave market in Babylon when Amber was still very young. Back then, large markets were held in major cities where cattle, horses, and slaves were sold. People would buy slaves along with livestock and use them for hard labor in fields and gardens, feeding them very little. Due to hard work and poor nutrition, many slaves fell ill and died young. The wealthy would simply buy new slaves to replace the dead ones. However, Rigjal treated Polka with great kindness. He fed him the same food he ate himself. Because of this, Polka loved Rigjal, Amber, and the old woman dearly, and was ready to sacrifice his life for them. Rigjal had not even told Polka that Amber was not his real son, but actually a royal prince. The royal seal that had been found with Amber in his tiny boat was kept safely in an old chest by Rigjal and his wife. After working all night at the pyramid, Rigjal, Amber, and Polka returned home in the morning. Amber's mother had prepared breakfast, camel trotter stew, and leavened bread. They all ate together and then lay down to rest. When Amber woke up, it was already noon. His father Rigjal and Polka were still asleep. His mother was busy preparing lunch. Amber picked up his slingshot and went outside. his mother called out after him.
Amber, don't go too far. Lunch will be ready soon.
Amber replied,
I'm just going to hunt ducks by the river. I'll be back soon.
His mother didn't say anything further. She knew that even if she tried to stop Amber, he wouldn't listen. After all, Amber was a prince by blood. Stubbornness and bravery were in his nature. He loved hunting and horseback riding. But this time, he set out on foot with his slingshot, walking along the Nile's bank. The weather was pleasant. The sky was unusually covered with light clouds, and a cool breeze was blowing. The Nile flowed peacefully, and fishermen were fishing from their boats. Suddenly, someone called Amber from behind. He turned around and saw it was old Gogush, who sold horse fodder and was watering a grapevine in front of his house.
Hello, Uncle.
Gogush replied,
Bless you, son Amber. Where are you heading at this time?
I'm going duck hunting, Uncle.
Son, don't kill animals. They are innocent signs of nature's beauty.
Uncle, what can I do? I enjoy hunting.
That's fine, Amber. But sometimes you should also show love towards animals. It's a good thing.
Let me hunt now, Uncle. Then I will make love too.
As you wish, son. But you always do as you please, and that's not a good habit.
While they were still talking, suddenly there was a commotion from upstream on the river. The fishermen began steering their boats toward the shore. Then a royal fleet of slaves arrived and began whipping the fishermen. Run from here. Don't you know the Queen's procession is coming? Get out. Disappear from here. There was chaos among the fishermen, and within moments, the surface of the Nile was completely cleared. Amber asked Gogush,
Whose royal procession is coming, Uncle?
I think it's Queen Nafridi's procession. Come inside, Amber. It's not safe to stay here. The royal guards might come with whips.
Amber stubbornly insisted on staying and seeing who would dare touch him, but Gogush dragged him inside and shut the door.
Have you gone mad? Don't you know when the Queen's procession comes, not even a bird dares to fly over the river?
Amber stayed silent and began peering through a hole in the window toward the river. After a short while, the royal barge of Queen Nafridi of Egypt appeared from upstream. As it passed near Gogush's house, Amber saw the dignified Queen of Egypt sitting in a magnificent palanquin, surrounded by hundreds of maidservants waving peacock fans and spraying fragrant perfumes ahead at some distance. Slaves and soldiers were clearing the way. Suddenly, Amber opened the door and ran out to the riverbank. This was not just an act of great daring. It was a major crime against the royal procession. The Queen noticed a handsome 14-year-old boy standing by the river, watching the procession eagerly. Immediately, the commander of the army moved forward and was about to kill Amber with his sword when the Queen raised her hand to stop him. Queen Nafridi said,
Bring the boy to me.
Amber was presented before Queen Nafridi. Amber was actually the Queen's own son, but she was unaware of it. The mother was in royal attire, while the son stood barefoot, dressed in plain clothes, holding a slingshot. Yet blood recognizes blood. The Queen's heart stirred. She gazed steadily at Amber's blue eyes and black silky hair. Then she spoke.
Who are you?
Amber bowed respectfully and said,
I am the son of the Rigjaw pyramid builder, Queen.
Why did you not hide when you saw the royal procession? Don't you know that anyone seen outside during the Queen's procession is executed?
I knew, Your Majesty.
Then why did you come out?
I came out to see the royal procession, my Queen. I came out to see the royal procession, my queen. I would have fought them, my queen.
It was a bold reply. The queen's blood stirred again. An ordinary boy of Egypt could never have given such an answer. Queen Nafridi fell into deep thought. Meanwhile, the commander bowed and said, "Your Majesty, they must be waiting for you at the palace." The queen, jolted from her thoughts, replied,
Yes, yes. Order the procession to move.
Then she turned to Amber and asked,
What is your name, boy?
Amber.
Very well. You may go now.
Amber bowed respectfully, returned to his house, and the royal procession moved on. Queen Nafridi was lost in deep thought. She was remembering her own son, the piece of her heart, whom she had entrusted to the waves of the Nile to save him from being killed. Her heart told her that her son had not died, that he was still alive, being raised somewhere by a fisherman. For 10 years, the queen had secretly made enormous efforts to find her child, but she had failed. Seeing Amber had reminded her of her lost son. She wondered, could Amber be her son? But how could that be? When Amber entered the house, Gogush immediately locked the door. He looked very worried. And why wouldn't he be? Amber had risked his life by running out to watch the queen's procession, knowing that the punishment for this crime was death. Gogush said angrily,
Have you gone mad? Boy, what were you thinking?
Amber proudly said,
I wanted to see the queen.
God's wrath. Didn't you know they would kill you?
I knew, but I was ready to fight.
But how could you fight the royal army alone?
At least I would have killed 1 or 2 before dying, uncle.
Gogush put his hand on his forehead and said,
Thank God you survived. Otherwise, how would I have faced your father?
Uncle, the royal army doesn't have the courage to kill me. I am a brave boy.
Gogush folded his hands, closed his eyes, and thanked God for saving Amber from death. Then, with great curiosity, he asked,
All right, boy. Tell me, what did the queen say to you?
The queen asked me my name, my father's name, and why I had come out.
And what did you reply?
I told her I came out to see the royal procession.
And then what did the queen say?
She asked, What if my soldiers had killed you?
And what did you answer?
I said I would fight them bravely.
And then what did the queen say?
First, she went into deep thought. Then she said, You are a brave boy. Now go back to your home.
Almighty Lord, thank you for putting mercy into the queen's heart. Who knows what could have happened otherwise? All right, boy, now run home and remember, never show such foolish courage again.
Amber laughed, twirling his slingshot, and said,
I'll still come out to watch the queen's procession.
Are you going somewhere or not, you idiot? I will complain to your father today.
Goodbye, uncle.
Laughing, Amber left Gogush's house. He went straight to his childhood friend Kaharman's house. Kaharman was 2 years older than Amber, 16 years old, and the son of a cheesemaker. When Amber told him the terrifying story, Kaharman was thrilled. He patted Amber on the shoulder and said,
What is it?
My wish is that one day I become a captain of the royal army, with a sword in one hand and an iron whip in the other. I will ride a horse, approach the slaves, and lash them fiercely.
But Kaharman, oppressing slaves isn't bravery. True courage is standing firm against an enemy.
Well, that's my wish. And mark my words, one day I will become a captain of the army.
You'll have to work very hard for that, Kaharman. But you do have the build for it. You could indeed become a captain.
Amber, remember this, If I ever become the captain of the king's army, I'll make sure you're with me, and I'll build you a magnificent palace by the Nile.
I don't need a palace built by you, Kahraman. I'll have my own palace built.
Fine! We'll both build our palaces. Now come on, let's go to the riverbank and catch some fish.
The two friends, arm in arm, walked toward the riverbank. At lunchtime, Amber brought home some fish. His mother said,
Son, you're very late. Your father has been waiting for you for a long time.
Amber went into the other room, where his father, Rigjaw, was pouring olive oil into a wooden bowl. Seeing Amber, he asked,
Where have you been so long, son?
Father, today I spoke with the Queen of Egypt.
The old Rigjaw nearly dropped a bowl of olive oil. He exclaimed,
What did you say?
Yes, Father, I spoke to the Queen of Egypt. She herself called me over.
His mother entered the room and said,
What are you saying, son?
Both parents were stunned to hear Amber's words. They could never have imagined that the queen would one day speak to her own son. Amber told them the entire story of the royal procession. The old couple listened to every word with great attention. Amber continued,
The Queen asked me, What is your father's name?
Old Rigjaw, worried, asked,
And what did you answer?
I said, My father's name is Rigjaw, and he builds pyramids.
The mother asked,
And what did the queen say then?
Nothing. She seemed very pleased with my bravery, and then she allowed me to return.
All praise be to the Almighty, who saved my son's life.
His father asked,
The queen didn't ask you anything else?
No, just my name, and then she fell silent.
She fell silent?
Yes, Father, she became completely quiet. It seemed to me she was deep in thought, staring at me very intently.
And the queen didn't say anything else?
No.
Old Rigjaw breathed a sigh of relief and said to Amber,
All right, go wash up and eat now.
During the meal, old Rigjaw kept thinking, what if the queen recognized her son? In truth, Rigjaw didn't want the queen to recognize Amber just yet. He wanted Amber to grow a little older, and then he himself would take Amber to the queen and reveal that he was her prince. He was sure the queen would reward him generously. But he also feared that if Pharaoh found out, he might have them all killed. That's why Rigjaw had kept the secret all these years. Sometimes he thought it would be best to keep the secret hidden until Pharaoh's death. Only then could they safely reveal the truth to the queen. After Amber fell asleep, Rigjaw said to his wife,
Is it possible that the queen has recognized her son?
How could that be? Amber was only a day old when the queen set him afloat on the Nile. How could she recognize him after 14 years? But I am still afraid. If the queen recognized Amber, she might try to claim him. If that happens, Pharaoh would certainly find out and he would have us all killed.
Rigjaw's wife thought for a moment and said,
You're worrying too much. The queen can't possibly recognize Amber after so many years.
But she's a mother, and a mother's blood can stir.
Even if she did recognize him, she wouldn't dare call him back to the palace. She knows very well that if Pharaoh learns about the boy, he will immediately have him killed, and perhaps even have the queen killed too.
You're right, Rigjaw said. But we must stay cautious from now on.
Don't worry. The Almighty will protect us, his wife reassured him.
Rigjaw thought for a while and said,
What if I take Amber to the queen myself?
For what?
To return her trust sealed with the royal mark.
For God's sake, don't even think of making that mistake. You'll endanger yourself, Amber, and all of us.
So that means we have no choice but to wait for Pharaoh's death?
Yes, that is the safest path for all of us.
Just then Polka, their servant, entered carrying a basket of ducks he had hunted and some boiled figs. Rigjaw asked,
"Where did you get these, Polka?"
Polka, wiping his teary eyes, replied,
I hunted the ducks myself with a stick, and the figs I picked from Tailor Twofoon's orchard.
Did you get permission from Twofoon to pick his figs?
At first, no, but when he caught me picking them, I apologized and asked for permission.
I've told you 1,000 times, Polka, never to pick fruit from someone else's orchard without permission. You'll get me into trouble. My master, when your poor servant sees trees heavy with fruit, his mouth waters.
I can't resist and start picking them.
And what if someone beats you up?
I'll apologize after getting beaten. But by the Almighty, I won't give back the fruit. I'll keep eating even while getting beaten.
All right, old fool, now take these ducks and figs and go eat them yourself. I won't spoil my old age eating stolen goods.
My lord, do you call this stolen property? Sir, this is the fruit of my hard labor. I swear by God, I endured 101 punches to get these figs, and I did not return a single one to the orchard owner.
All right, now leave.
I am going, my lord.
In reality, the old man Rigjaw was worried about the incident involving the Queen of Egypt's carriage, and he was in no mood to listen to the slave Polka's endless chatter. Once the slave left, Rigjaw went into the next room and gazed lovingly and thoughtfully at the sleeping Amber, who lay on a date palm mat. Blue eyes, silky black hair, a sharp royal nose, he looked exactly like a prince of Egypt. Rigjaw watched him for a long time. Then, lowering his head, he quietly walked away. He loved Amber like his own son and could not bear the thought of being separated from him. Back at the palace, Queen Nafridi was growing sad for her lost child. Out of fear of her husband, Pharaoh, she had once set her child adrift on the river. Yet not for a single moment had she forgotten him. The idea behind placing her tiny child in a small boat and letting it float away was that some fisherman might find and raise him. If the great Lord willed, someday mother and child would be reunited. Fear of the cruel and heartless Pharaoh prevented the queen from openly searching for her son, but secretly, she always hoped for news of him. 14 years had passed, and Queen Nafridi still burned with longing for the piece of her heart that was torn away. What mother can ever forget her child? One can eventually find peace for a dead child, but to be separated by one's own hand, that is a pain beyond bearing. Queen Nafridi hoped that one day her son would be returned to her. Her only confidant was her maid, Charmin. It was Charmin who, 14 years ago, had prepared the little boat for the infant prince, placing a bottle of milk, some gold coins, soft pillows, and hiding the royal seal under one of them. When the Queen's royal carriage returned from a cruise on the Nile, Charmin noticed how deeply the Queen was grieving for her child. She had overheard the Queen's conversation with Amber, Rigjaw's son, and noticed her particular sadness, but kept quiet, fearing that mentioning the child might cause even greater distress. Upon returning to the palace, the queen dismissed all her other maids and lay down on her plush bed. Once everyone had left and the bedchamber was empty, the queen said,
Charmin,
Yes, Your Highness.
did you see the boy who had come to see our carriage by the river today?
I did, Your Majesty.
What do you think about his appearance?
Charmin had studied Amber carefully and had thought he resembled the prince. But since she was not sure, she couldn't confirm anything to the queen. She also cared deeply about the queen's fragile health and knew it would be cruel to raise false hope. So wisely she said,
His appearance was simple and innocent, Your Majesty.
The queen threw aside her fan made of white hawk feathers and said,
That's not what I mean, Charmin. I am asking if he resembled our lost child.
I don't think so, Your Majesty.
The queen sighed deeply and said,
Then why did my heart react so strongly upon seeing him? Why did my blood stir?
It is just a feeling, Your Majesty. You are always thinking of your lost son.
Then where is my child? Tell me, Charmin, where is my little prince growing up? By now he must be a young man. His eyes, they were blue, too.
Yes, Your Majesty, the prince had blue eyes. But not every child with blue eyes is a prince.
Then why can't I find my prince? For 14 years, I have burned with longing. How much longer must I suffer? Charmin,
Trust in the great Lord, Your Majesty. Your little prince will surely return to you one day.
but when will that day come? Charmin,
If it is God's will, it will be very soon.
The queen laid her heavy head on her soft pillows and closed her eyes. Charmin sprinkled rose water from Tunis over the queen's feet and fanned her gently with peacock feathers. After a while, when the queen felt somewhat better, she said,
Charmin, you are my most loyal and trusted maid. Right now, I speak not as a queen, but as a mother yearning for her lost child. Find my prince for me. I can no longer bear his absence.
Do not worry, Your Majesty. Your prince will come to you soon. My heart tells me he is near.
The queen closed her eyes again. She had been hearing these consolations from Charmin for 14 years, but now her heart was weary of waiting. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and said,
By the river lives Anatul the dervish. Once he said that my prince is alive and that I would find him one day. I want to go to him again and ask when my lost son will return to me.
Your Majesty, it is not appropriate for you to go there.
I must go. If you do not accompany me, I will go alone.
As you command, Your Majesty, I will go with you.
Charmin didn't want the queen to risk going to Anatul the dervish, fearing that if Pharaoh found out, both their lives would be in danger. But she could not refuse her queen.
We will go tonight, said the queen.
As you wish, Your Majesty.
That night, the queen and Charmin cloaked themselves completely in black robes and, through a secret passage, left the palace. A Nubian guard was waiting for them outside with 2 black Arabian horses. As soon as they emerged, he bowed deeply. They mounted the horses and rode towards the Nile under cover of darkness, the guard following behind. Sharman had bribed him generously and told him only that the queen was going to get her headaches cured by the dervish Anatul. Their horses galloped like the wind, and soon they reached the grove of fig trees near the Nile. Handing the horses over to the guard, they approached the dervish's hut. At that time, Anatul the dervish was deep in worship inside his hut. A pious, humble man, Anatul had no interest in worldly possessions. He lived only to serve God and help his creation. The queen and Sharman respectfully sat down outside his door, waiting silently. The dervish, lost in prayer, did not notice them at first. When he finally finished, he turned and saw them. He immediately understood why they had come. But Anatul had already decided he would not yet reveal to the queen that her son, now known as Amber, was alive and being raised by a humble family. He knew it was too dangerous while Pharaoh still ruled. A mother's heart could not be trusted to keep such a secret. In her joy, she might tell someone, and the Pharaoh would have the boy killed. Thus, Anatul said,
"Welcome, Your Majesty."
The queen and Sharman bowed deeply.
O Holy One, I have come to you to ease the sorrow of my heart.
If it is within my power, I will certainly serve you. Helping others has always been my joy. Tell me what you seek.
O Holy Dervish, once you told me my son was alive, and that one day he would be found.
I did.
Yesterday, while riding on the royal barge, I saw a boy of about 14 or 15 by the riverbank. His eyes were blue, and his hair was black. My blood stirred, and my mother's instinct awakened. Tell me, Holy One, was that boy my son?
Anatul knew it was indeed the queen's son, but he could not reveal it yet. It was not the will of God, nor was it safe. He said,
I will seek an answer in divine meditation.
He closed his eyes and fell silent for a long time. Then he opened them again. The queen, full of anxious hope, asked,
What is the decree, O Holy One?
Your prince will not be found yet, Queen. You must wait a little longer.
The queen's face fell. Folding her hands, she pleaded,
At least tell me, is he alive?
The dervish closed his eyes again, whispered prayers, then opened them and said,
Yes, Your Majesty. Your prince is alive and is being raised in a good home.
Joy lit up the queen's face. She asked eagerly,
Where is he, Holy One?
The Almighty God has not commanded me to reveal this, Queen, but I can tell you this much. You will find him, and a mother's heart will finally find peace in reunion with her son.
How much longer must this unfortunate mother wait? Your Excellency?
Very little time, Queen, very little.
Sharman then whispered softly into the queen's ear that daylight would soon break, and they should return to the palace quickly. The queen placed a pouch filled with gold coins at the feet of the dervish, and said,
A humble offering, Your Excellency.
The dervish, Anatul, gestured toward the pouch and said,
Take it back with you, Queen. For us, gold and dust are the same.
The queen, folding her hands respectfully, said,
Please forgive my boldness. I offer this of my own free will.
You cannot burden us with your generosity, Queen. Take this pouch of earth back to the palace. Golden serpents look better hissing within royal walls.
The queen signaled to Charmin, who picked up the pouch. Then Queen Nafridi bowed deeply in respect and left the hut. A short distance away, beneath the fig trees, a Nubian slave awaited them with black horses. As Charmin had said, the light of day was beginning to spread across the sky, and they needed to hurry back to the palace. They mounted the horses and loosened the reins, allowing the Arabian steeds to gallop toward the palace. After the queen left, Dervish Anatul became deeply worried. After 14 long years of patience, the Queen of Egypt had, for the first time, shown the pain of a mother yearning for her lost child, and all because she had seen Amber by the Nile's edge, who was, in truth, her son. Anatul sensed that the queen might now go to any length to uncover the truth. She would try everything to find out who Amber really was and how he ended up in Rigjol's household. If she succeeded in unveiling this secret, she would undoubtedly claim Amber and likely raise him secretly in the palace. But Pharaoh's palace was full of spies. Such a secret could never remain hidden. As soon as the Pharaoh learned that the child destined to cause his downfall was living under his very nose, he would have Amber killed, and possibly Rigjol and his wife too. Dervish Anatul understood that it was crucial to hide the truth until Pharaoh's death. He realized that Queen Nafridi would certainly visit Rigjol's home to question Amber. Anatul decided that he must meet Rigjol at once to inform him of the danger. He waited until the sun had risen well into the sky, ensuring Rigjol would have arrived at the pyramids of Egypt where he worked. Then he left his hut, though the morning sun already burned fiercely in the Egyptian desert. Anatul was well accustomed to its heat. After an hour's journey, he arrived at the site where Rigjol was overseeing the construction. Anatul sent a message through a slave, and Rigjol, wiping his hands on his cloth, came out of the cavern. Seeing the dervish, he respectfully said,
"You should not have troubled yourself. Sir, a command would have been enough. I would have come to you."
The matter was such that I had to come myself. Let us sit under the shade of those date palms and talk.
As you wish.
They sat under the cool shade, and Rigjol listened attentively. He knew that Anatul was fully aware of Amber's true origins. Anatul said,
Rigjol, Queen Nafridi visited me last night.
Rigjol was startled.
What did you say, sir? The queen herself came to see you?
Yes, Rigjol. Listen to me carefully.
Rigjol became fully attentive. Anatul continued.
I know you love Amber like your own son and would not bear to be separated from him.
Indeed, sir. If anything happened to Amber, it would be as if the sky fell upon me.
That is why I have come to you personally. Listen carefully to what I am saying. The Queen suspects that Amber is her lost son. She will investigate thoroughly and do everything to claim him. And you know, Rigjol, when a queen sets her mind to something, she almost always succeeds.
But sir, my wife and I cannot bear to part with Amber.
You are worrying about separation, Rigjol. I am worried for your lives.
What do you mean, sir?
If Queen Nafridi confirms that Amber is her son, she will take him to the palace. There, the secret cannot remain hidden for long. Once Pharaoh learns that the child foretold to kill him is growing up within his palace, he will surely have Amber killed, and you and your wife too.
You speak the truth, my lord. Please advise me, what should I do?
Dervish Anatul pondered for a while, then said,
There is only one solution. You must send Amber to your sister in the kingdom of Syria for a while. When the situation becomes safe, you can call him back.
Very well, sir, I will do as you say.
Be careful. If anyone asks where Amber is, you must spread the word that he ran away. Pretend to fall ill from grief for a few days to make it more convincing.
It shall be done, my lord.
With that, Anatul departed, and Rigjal immediately set about carrying out the plan. Amber was working alongside him in the lowest chamber of the pyramid. When Rigjal returned, Amber asked,
Father, who are you talking to upstairs?
Rigjal concealed the truth, replying,
A messenger from the royal palace came to instruct that the marble platform should not be built too high. I was taking new measurements with him.
While chiseling the marble, Amber muttered,
What madness grips these kings, thinking they will live forever even after death? What difference will a slightly higher or lower platform make?
Do not say such things, son. We are slaves of the Pharaoh. We must obey orders without question.
That evening, after finishing work, they returned home, where Amber's mother had prepared food. Slave Polka, sniffing the aroma, said,
Mother must have cooked crocodile today.
She struck him playfully with a wooden spoon.
Keep your tongue in check, Polka. Today I made duck with rice.
By the great God, that is my favorite dish.
After dinner, Polka went out to tend the grapevines. Rigjal then explained everything to his wife. Though initially very distressed, she agreed that sending Amber away was the best option.
I will speak to Amber tonight. Lately, he has been saying he is tired of constant work.
That night, as they prepared to sleep, Rigjal broached the topic with Amber. He suggested that Amber visit his sister in Syria for a while. Amber brightened up.
Father, you read my mind. I have been longing for a break. The damp, dark chambers of the pyramid have made my life miserable.
Then prepare to leave tomorrow morning. Son, Polka can accompany you part of the way.
But Father, how will you manage all the work alone?
Do not worry about me, son. Work will always be there. I want you to regain your health and strength. I will send a letter along for my sister.
Very well, Father. I will set out tomorrow.
Rigjal offered heartfelt thanks to the Almighty that this difficult task had been settled so easily. He had feared that Amber, with his stubborn nature, might resist, but instead, he agreed joyfully. Amber would depart in the morning. Rigjal felt a heavy burden lifted from his heart. For a poor laborer like him, his children's love was his only treasure. He knew the dangers that lurked in royal courts: poison, betrayal, and assassination were common there. But here, among simple folk, he could protect Amber. On the other hand, Amber was unexpectedly eager to set out on the journey. He woke up at the break of dawn and began preparing for the journey. Polka also woke up, rubbing his eyes. He was used to sleeping longer and grumbled about being woken up so early. He said,
"My master, can't we postpone the journey until tomorrow evening?"
Rigjal scolded him.
Stop your nonsense, Polka.
Polka fell silent. Rigjal could never allow even the thought of postponing the journey to arise in Amber's mind. Thanks to the Almighty, Amber was engrossed in preparations with great focus. Amber's mother packed his clothes into a bag and gave him roasted duck meat for the journey. Polka fed and massaged the horses while muttering to himself. Before sunrise, both horses were ready and standing. Amber's father hugged him tightly. His mother placed her hand on his head, kissed his forehead, and said,
"Son, may the Almighty protect you on your journey. Son, remember to take rest along the way."
Don't worry, Mother. I'll comfortably reach Syria by evening.
Rigjal pulled Polka's ear and said,
Polka, take special care of Amber's safety and comfort, and return immediately after reaching the destination to inform us of his well-being.
"As you command, my master. But please, let go of my ear."
Amber mounted his horse and said,
Goodbye, Father. Goodbye, Mother. Goodbye, Father. Goodbye, Mother.
"Goodbye, my son," they replied. Amber and Polka urged their horses forward, and the fresh, lively horses neighed happily as they set off toward Sham. Rigjal and his wife kept watching until Amber disappeared from sight behind the sand dunes. Finally, when they could no longer see them, they went inside. Rigjal breathed a deep sigh of relief and said,
Amber has been saved from a great calamity. Now we must tell everyone that Amber left home after a disagreement, and we sent Polka to search for him.
So it shall be.
That day, Rigjal feigned illness and lay in bed, mourning Amber's departure. The whole neighborhood was told that Amber had quarreled and left home in anger. People came to offer their sympathy and prayed that the Almighty would reunite Rigjal with his lost son. Rigjal acted well and even shed false tears before the neighbors. When everyone left, he and his wife smiled, went to the kitchen, ate heartily, and slept peacefully. In the middle of the night, Rigjal woke up. It seemed as though someone was knocking at the door. He decided not to wake his wife and went himself to the entrance, calling out.
Who is outside?
A woman's voice answered.
Open the door, I need to speak urgently.
Rigjal's heart raced. Who could be visiting him at midnight? He opened the door and a fair-skinned woman, completely wrapped in a black cloak, entered. Rigjal led her to a seat made of palm fronds and asked,
Respected sister, why have you troubled yourself to come at this late hour?
This mysterious woman, cloaked in black, was Sharman, a special handmaiden of Queen Nafridi of Egypt. The queen had decided to secretly summon Amber to the royal palace that night to question him about his origins and how he had come to live in Rigjal's home. However, by evening, she had learned that Amber had fled. For a moment, she suspected that Rigjal had intentionally helped him escape. But her spy, the Abyssinian, reported that Amber's father was grieving and bedridden from sorrow. Thus, Queen Nafridi sent Sharman along with the Abyssinian to verify the situation. As soon as Sharman sat down, she said,
Listen, Rigjal. I have come on behalf of Queen Nafridi to find out where Amber is.
Rigjal trembled from head to toe. What he had feared had now come true. He thanked the Almighty that Amber had already fled.
Good-hearted sister, Amber has left home, leaving a scar on my heart. He had become negligent in his duties. The other day, I scolded him in front of everyone. He took it to heart and ran away yesterday. In his grief, my wife and I are devastated.
Sharman began to believe Rigjal was telling the truth. She asked,
Do you have any idea where Amber might have gone?
I have no idea, kind sister. I don't even have any relatives elsewhere. May the Almighty return my son to me soon. Otherwise, his mother will die from grief. But noble sister, why was the great queen concerned about this poor boy?
Now Sharman Leet.
The commander-in-chief was angry that your son came outside during the royal procession and showed disrespect. When the queen learned that the commander wanted to have him killed, she grew concerned and sent me to ensure Amber's safety.
Rigjal realized that Sharman was lying. Both were lying to each other, unaware of the other's deceit. Rigjal told Sharman to convey his heartfelt thanks to the queen for her concern for his son. Then he began to cry. Sharman consoled him and quickly left. Under the date palms, the Abyssinian slave awaited her with the horses. Sharman mounted a horse and disappeared into the night. Rigjal then woke his wife and told her everything. She too thanked the Almighty for saving Amber and getting him out of Egypt. The journey to Syria. The news of Amber fleeing from his home deeply saddened Queen Nafridi. Her plan had failed. She had wanted to summon Amber to her royal palace to examine the marks on his body, especially the royal seal. But before she could act, Amber had already left. Now Queen Nafridi was almost certain that Amber was her lost son. She thought of summoning Rigjal and questioning him about where he had obtained the child. She immediately sent Sharman again with strict instructions to bring Rigjal with her. Shortly after, Rigjal was standing before the queen. Queen Nafridi spoke kindly.
Rigjal, we are about to ask you a very secret matter. We hope you will not lie to us.
Please ask your majesty.
Tell me, is Amber your real son?
By the Almighty, your majesty, Amber is indeed my son. He is my only child. 15 years ago, when he was born, I offered sacrifices to the gods in gratitude.
Are you absolutely certain that Amber is your son?
Just as I stand here before your majesty, I am certain.
You may go now, Rigjal.
After Rigjal left, Queen Nafridi was torn between two thoughts. Sometimes she felt Rigjal was lying, and that Amber was truly the Prince of Egypt. At other times, she doubted herself. Perhaps Amber was not the prince after all. She sought advice from Sharman. Sharman said,
Your Majesty, the only way to be certain is to have Amber present and examine his identifying marks. I remember the prince had a black mole on his right arm.
But Amber has already left Egypt. Rigjal himself does not know where he has gone.
Perhaps Rigjal is lying.
But how can we find out?
They were still talking when a maid came in and said that the Abyssinian slave Zumurid sought an audience. The queen signaled for him to be brought in. Zumurid, the Abyssinian, was Queen Nafridi's special servant, assigned to spy within the palace and keep her informed about enemy conspiracies. From the very first day, the queen had tasked him with gathering information about Amber. Zamorid entered, bowed low in greeting, and stood respectfully. The queen asked,
Zamorid, what news have you brought?
May the Queen's glory endure forever. My spies report that Amber is currently traveling toward the land of Syria.
Is this news accurate, Zamorid?
Your Majesty, my information has never been wrong.
The queen got up from her couch and commanded,
Zamorid, immediately take 2 men with you, set out toward Syria, and bring Amber back to me.
As you command, Your Majesty.
And listen, Amber must not be harmed in any way.
Understood, Your Majesty.
Zamorid bowed 3 times and left the chamber. As he departed, the queen happily turned to Charmin.
Charmin, by the will of the great Lord, I shall be reunited with my lost child.
I believe so too, Your Majesty. Zamorid will surely bring Amber back.
Riding the swift royal horses, Zamorid will catch up to him before he reaches Syria.
God willing, it will be so.
Zamorid immediately ordered swift Arabian horses to be saddled from the royal stables, took 2 men with him, and set out toward Syria. They rode hard all day. By evening, they reached a canal and camped by its banks, allowing the horses to drink and graze. After a brief rest, they resumed their journey under the cover of night. The desert sky was studded with stars shining like pearls, casting a dim light on the hazy sand dunes. Zamorid, well familiar with the routes, had traveled these paths many times before. Amber had a full day and night's head start. Therefore, Zamorid pushed on without resting, determined to catch up before Amber could reach Syria. Meanwhile, Amber and his servant Polka had been traveling through Egypt's deserts for a full day and night. They had not rested the first night, eager to cross Egypt's borders as soon as possible. But by the second night, exhaustion overtook them. Their horses, too, were weary. In the distance, among the sand dunes, they spotted a flickering light. Polka said,
My lord, traveling day and night has broken my back. Why don't we spend the night at an inn?
I am tired as well. Surely, that light must be from an inn. Let's find out. If it is, we'll stay the night and resume our journey in the morning.
May the great Lord grant that it is an inn.
Polka prayed, urging his horse after Amber's. Soon, they reached the place where the light was coming from. It was an old building surrounded by palm trees, with a torch burning in a niche outside. Amber and Polka tied their horses to a tree and knocked on the door. After several knocks, an old woman, rubbing her eyes, opened the door and asked,
Who are you people, disturbing my sleep in the middle of the night?
Mother, we are travelers journeying toward Syria. We seek a place to spend the night.
Is this an inn?
This is not an inn, but if you have 2 gold coins to give me as a reward, I can arrange food, a place for you to sleep, and fodder for your horses.
We will give you gold coins right away, Mother. Please arrange food, rest for us, and care for our horses.
Come inside.
Amber and Polka entered the old courtyard, where another torch flickered in a niche. The old woman led them into a room where dry grass was spread on the ground.
You can rest here. I'll bring you something to eat.
And what about the horses?
They will be taken care of too.
First you eat.
In one corner of the room, a small lamp burned, casting dim light that gave the room a mysterious atmosphere. Polka looked around and muttered,
My lord, this looks like a haunted house to me, and that woman seems like the mother of all ghosts.
Keep quiet, you fool. That old woman gave us a place to stay for the night, arranged food for us and our horses, and here you are calling her the mother of ghosts.
But we also gave her gold coins.
So what? Do you think you could have bought anything if she hadn't let us in first?
Say whatever you want, master, but to me, she still looks like a witch.
While they were still talking, the old woman returned carrying warm milk and barley bread. They ate the bread with milk and thanked the great Lord. After chatting for a while, they fell into a deep sleep. They were so exhausted from 2 days of traveling without rest that they lost all awareness. Meanwhile, someone gently knocked on the door. The old woman got up and opened it. Outside, 3 Abyssinians sat on horseback. She was startled at first, but gathered her courage and asked,
Who are you?
These were Zamorid, the Abyssinian, and his companions, who had tracked Amber to the inn where Amber and Polka were staying. Amber had also woken up at the sound of the door and was listening carefully to everything. Zamorid told the innkeeper they were travelers looking for a place to stay for the night. The old woman also demanded gold coins from them, and Zamorid immediately handed her 2 gold coins. The old woman led them to a room adjacent to Amber's. The room also had dry grass spread on the floor. Zamorid asked her,
Mother, has anyone else come before us tonight?
Travelers come and go all the time. It's very late now. You should rest. Breakfast will be served in the morning.
No problem, Mother. We'll eat in the morning. We're not even hungry.
The old woman left the room, and Amber, hearing the door close, assumed some travelers had simply arrived. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. However, Zamorid and his companions began talking. Amber, lying quietly with his eyes closed, listened intently. Zamorid said,
I am sure he hasn't gone far.
Another companion said,
By the will of the great Lord, we'll find him tomorrow somewhere.
If we don't catch him, what face will we show to the queen?
That will never happen. We will catch him.
And we'll hand him over to Queen Alia and get a huge reward.
Of course, of course. Remember, if his name is Amber, mine is Zamorid, the Queen of Egypt's special spy. He won't escape me.
Amber was stunned. Now he knew these men were after him, and at the queen's orders. He quickly woke Polka and explained everything. Polka, deeply troubled, said,
The question is, why does the queen want to capture you, master?
There must be some deep secret behind this. But for now, it's clear they are after me. If they find out I am sleeping right next door, they will definitely capture me.
Then what will happen, master? How will I show my face to your sister in Damascus?
Don't panic, Polka. We must escape immediately.
Right now.
Yes, right now.
Quietly, they both got up, wrapped their cloaks around themselves, and tiptoed to the courtyard. A torch in a wall niche was burning dimly after a long night. Amber held Polka's hand, opened the inn's door, and stepped outside. Under the open sky, the stars shone brightly. Quickly crossing the sandy ground, they reached the cluster of palm trees where their horses were tied. Without wasting a moment, they mounted their horses and sped toward the border of Syria. Meanwhile, Zamorid was waiting for breakfast when the innkeeper entered, carrying milk and barley bread, muttering loudly.
Strange people. They didn't even eat breakfast, didn't say anything, and ran away at night.
Zamorid asked,
Who ran away, mother?
The travelers staying next to your room.
Who were they?
A slave and a young man with blue eyes. He gave me gold coins, seemed like someone from a noble family.
The bread slipped from Zamorid's hand. He quickly asked,
When did they arrive?
A little while before you did.
Zamorid immediately stood up and shouted to his companions,
Saddle the horses quickly. Amber must not escape.
The old woman watched them in shock as the three Abyssinians rushed out, mounted their horses, and galloped away. The night dew had hardened the sand, allowing their horses to run at full speed. But Amber and Polka were far ahead by then. By the time Zamorid and his men entered Damascus, Amber and Polka had already reached the city gates. They gave gold coins to the guards at the checkpoint and entered the city. It was midday, and the streets were bustling. Polka led Amber straight to his sister's house. Rigjol's sister hugged Amber, and following the Syrian custom, dipped her finger in olive oil and marked Amber's forehead, saying,
May the great Lord protect you.
Meanwhile, Zamorid entered Damascus with his companions and started searching for Amber. He checked every inn, but found no trace of him. After 15 days of relentless searching, Zamorid had to return to Egypt with his companions. He reported to the Queen of Egypt that Amber could not be found in Syria. The queen scolded Zamorid harshly, but the arrow had already left the bow. There was nothing she could do. She had to accept it and remain patient. Meanwhile, Amber secretly sent a message to his father, Rigjol, explaining that the queen's men had chased and attempted to capture him, asking why this was happening. Rigjol immediately realized that the queen must have discovered that Amber was headed to Syria. He sent a message back to Amber advising him to stay in Syria for now and not attempt to return home, because the queen was still planning to imprison him under the heavy influence of the general, who secretly wanted Amber killed. Although this accusation wasn't completely true, staying away was in Amber's best interest. When Amber received this message, he became deeply worried. Polka advised him,
My master, under no circumstances should you return home now, or that cruel general will have you killed.
Amber remained silent. In the evenings, he worked with a herbalist and began learning the use of herbs and medicines for the sick. Polka got a job guarding fruit in the olive groves. Time passed in this way. 5 years went by. During that time, Rigjol and his wife secretly came to Damascus to meet Amber. They were waiting for the Pharaoh's death so that after his passing, they could reveal to the queen the secret that Amber was the Pharaoh's son. Time continued to pass slowly. In these years, Amber gained complete knowledge of herbs. Now, he began learning from his master the art of brain surgery by opening the skull. As you may know, the doctors of ancient Egypt were very skilled. They treated the brain by opening the skull. They were so expert that they could open half the skull carefully and operate on the brain with delicate instruments. healing the patient. Within 5 years, Amber had also become skilled in this art. Under his master's supervision, he operated on many patients by opening their skulls and successfully treated them. Meanwhile, Amber's parents had grown very old. Amber himself had grown into a young man. His aunt had also passed away, and he now lived with Polka in the master's custody. That same year, a great flood came to Egypt. Amber's friend Kaharman informed him that his parents had perished in the flood. Tears welled up in Amber's eyes. He couldn't even return to Egypt to pray at his parents' graves. He remained patient and stayed in Damascus. It had been 12 years since he came to Syria. During this time, he learned that the Pharaoh had died and that his younger brother, Natun, had ascended the throne. Amber had been waiting for this very day. He took Polka with him and, after bidding farewell to his master, set off towards Egypt. He was returning to his homeland after 13 years. When he had left, he was a young boy. Now, he had grown into a full man and mastered the art of medicine. Upon reaching Egypt, he first went to his old home, but the flood had washed it away. Only small mounds of earth and sand remained. He then went straight to his childhood friend Kaharman's house. Kaharman, too, had grown into a young man. He served in the Pharaoh's royal army. Kaharman embraced his old friend Amber warmly, expressed his deep sorrow over the death of his parents, and took him to their graves. Amber, with tearful eyes, prayed at his parents' graves and returned to Kaharman's house. Kaharman's house was large, beautiful, and well decorated. He had become a strong, hefty soldier with a good salary.
I'm happy, Kaharman, that you joined the royal army.
You'll be even happier to hear soon that I have become the Pharaoh of Egypt.
May God Almighty make it so.
It will happen, Amber, you'll see. One day, the sacred staff will be in my hand, a golden eagle crown on my head, and I will sit on the throne of Egypt.
They talked for a while, and then suddenly Kaharman said,
Oh yes, I almost forgot. Your father entrusted me with a small chest before his death, asking me to give it to you. Your trust is safe with me. Come, take it.
Thank you, Kaharman. Where is it?
Kaharman went to his room and brought back a white ivory box.
Here you go, brother, your trust.
Thank you, Kaharman. I'll take my leave now.
When will you meet again?
I'll come tomorrow evening.
Do come. I want you to meet one of my friends.
I surely will.
Amber took the ivory chest and returned to the inn, where he found out that Polka had died after falling from a horse. It was as if a mountain of grief had fallen on Amber. Now he was completely alone in this world. He lay in the dark room of the inn for a long time, weeping. Then he gathered his courage, drank a bowl of warm milk, and opened the chest to see what his late father had left for him. First, he found a letter from his father. He opened it and started reading. In it, Rigjal had revealed the entire secret. After reading the letter, Amber was stunned. Was he not Rigjal's son? Was he the Pharaoh's son? Was the Queen of Egypt his mother? Amber's body trembled at the thought that he was the son of a cruel Pharaoh. At the end of the letter, Rigjal had written,
My dear son, inside this chest you will also find a royal seal. This is a Pharaoh's special seal, which no one except the prince can possess. We found it in the boat you floated down the Nile.
Amber turned over the bottom of the chest. Wrapped in red velvet was the golden royal seal of the Pharaoh. Amber picked it up and put it in his pocket. He carefully stored away the letter too, and, lost in strange thoughts, fell asleep. The next morning, he went to Kaharman. Kaharman was getting ready in uniform to go to the royal palace. His chariot, pulled by 2 white horses, was waiting outside. Seeing Amber, he welcomed him warmly.
My friend, you didn't come last night. I wanted to take you to a special place.
I was so tired, I passed out the moment I lay down.
No worries, we'll go today.
Kaharman, I want to practice medicine in the city. Can you help me with that?
Of course. I'm your friend. Whatever help you need, I'm ready.
I want to open a small clinic for the sick in a modest mansion. I learned this craft from my master and wish to serve the poor and sick.
That's not a problem at all. I have a vacant mansion by the riverside. Take it and start your work.
Thank you, Kaharman. You are a true friend.
There was no need to even say that, Amber. We are true friends and will always remain so. If you want, I can even get you a job in the Royal Army.
No, my friend. I wish to serve the sick.
As you wish. But don't forget to come with me this evening.
I'll surely come.
That evening, Kaharman took Amber to a very famous and wealthy dancer of Thebes, where nobles and poets often gathered. The dancer's name was Talala. She was a dignified and beautiful woman. Kaharman introduced Amber to her. Talala began chatting with him. Soon, Amber started visiting her every second or third day. Meanwhile, Amber had established his clinic in the mansion where hundreds of patients came for treatment. He successfully performed brain surgeries on several wealthy people and earned a lot of money. However, he squandered all his wealth at Talala's house, a bad habit that his friend had led him into. Being of noble descent, Amber tried to avoid such vices. One day, he said to Talala,
Talala, I want you to marry me, so we can lead a righteous and honorable life together.
Do you have enough wealth to marry me?
Whatever you demand, I am ready to give, so you may escape this sinful life, and I too may find a home.
Bring me your surgical instruments.
Amber trembled. In those days, surgical instruments were considered extremely sacred, believed to be under the protection of angels, because they were used to heal the sick. Yet, Amber did not refuse, thinking that if sacrificing so much could save a wayward soul, it would be worth it. Talala was shocked. She never expected Amber to agree to give away something as sacred as surgical instruments, which were more valuable than gold at the time. The next day, Amber brought all his instruments and handed them over to Talala. She locked them away in her chest, clapped her hands, and summoned 2 hefty Ethiopian guards.
Throw this young man out of my house.
Amber, stunned, stared at Talala.
What? What are you doing, Talala?
Talala shouted angrily.
And what did you think? That I would marry a beggar like you? Get out of my house, and if you ever show your face here again, I'll have your head cut off.
Amber tried to step forward to say something, but the 2 strong guards grabbed him, lifted him, and threw him into the street with great force. He was badly injured and lost consciousness. Thunder roared in the sky, lightning flashed, and rain poured down. When Amber regained consciousness, he was lying in the mud, drenched by the rain. His heart was filled with bitter wisdom. Quietly, he stood up and went back to his mansion, where he lay down on his couch. He bathed, treated his wounds, changed his clothes, and rested. A week later, his wounds healed. He did not speak to Kahraman, as by then, Kahraman had become the commander-in-chief of the Pharaoh's army and lived in the royal palace, rarely meeting Amber. After washing himself and wearing clean old clothes, Amber decided to visit Talala one last time. When he arrived at her grand house, she refused to see him. Amber sent a message that he had brought her a gift. Tempted by greed, Talala allowed him in. She was sitting on a grand bed. Amber approached her, took the Pharaoh's golden royal seal out of his pocket, and said,
"Do you recognize this?"
Talala's eyes widened in shock. She had clearly recognized the royal seal of the Pharaoh. She said,
Yes, this is the royal seal.
Look at it carefully.
I am looking, Amber. This is indeed the Pharaoh's royal seal. But how did it come into your possession?
Because it is mine. It is my right.
What do you mean?
You are unfortunate, Talala. A time will come when you will realize that you did not reject Amber, but the son of the Pharaoh of Egypt. Then you will regret it, but it will be of no use.
After saying this, Amber turned and left quickly. Talala kept calling him, but Amber had already exited the house. Pharaoh Akhenaten. When Pharaoh Akhenaten ascended the throne, he was only 23 years old. His elder brother, Atun, had been a cruel and tyrannical ruler. He was Amber's father and had decreed that if any of his queens gave birth to a son, the child should be killed. Amber was lucky. Thanks to the wisdom of his mother, Queen Nefertiti, he was set adrift on the river's waves and reached the home of a man named Rigjal, thus surviving. After Atun's death, the people breathed a sigh of relief. Akhenaten was a kind-hearted, pious, and compassionate king toward his subjects. But historically, his most notable characteristic was that he did not worship idols. Before him, all the pharaohs had worshipped various idols, gods of lightning, clouds, mountains, stars, serpents, and the sun, all enshrined in temples. In the capital city of Thebes, there was a grand temple of the sun god. There, alongside the sun god, deities of fire, water, lightning, and serpents were also worshipped. When Akhenaten became pharaoh, he immediately declared that he was against idol worship. Previous pharaohs had even claimed to be gods themselves. Akhenaten announced that he was not a god, nor were the sun, fire, lightning, clouds, or serpents gods. Rather, they were all creations of the one true God. God is a being greater and loftier than all these. Dear friends, this happened exactly 3,300 years ago when Pharaoh Akhenaten proclaimed that there is only one God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, who made everything, but who himself was not created. There is no one like him. He was not born from anyone, nor was he created by anyone. In the entire history of Egypt's pharaohs, Akhenaten was the first to believe in monotheism, faith in one God. He married his brother's widow, Queen Nefertiti, and built a grand place of worship in the city of Karnak, a temple with no idols, where he would face the sky and worship God. Natun was a man of great character. Although he was the ruler of a vast empire and wore the crown, he had no attachment to these worldly things. He freed all his concubines, made servants and slaves, and tried to do his task himself. By outlawing idol worship, he took a revolutionary step against the old religion. Most people turned against him, especially the high priests, who became furious because their wealth and influence depended on the people's idol worship. Yet they could not openly oppose Natun because he was the king. Thus, they began conspiring against him in secret. Amber's childhood friend, Kahraman, had now become the commander-in-chief of Egypt's army. He had ambitions to overthrow Pharaoh Natun and seize the throne for himself. After much effort and struggle, he had attained his military rank. When he saw that the priests were all against Natun, he decided to ally with them. The high priest's name was Arzamas. One day, Kahraman took Arzamas with him outside the city in a chariot to a vineyard. Beneath the shade of the grapevines was a marble platform. They both sat there. Arzamas asked,
"O commander of Egypt's army, why have you summoned me?"
Placing his hand on the hilt of his sword, Kahraman replied,
Arzamas, you know very well that Pharaoh Natun has crossed all limits. He is bent on destroying the religion of our ancestors. He has smashed the idols in our temples. He has decreed that there will be no more idol worship, only worship of one God.
By interfering with our religion, Pharaoh has angered the entire populace. No priest supports him anymore. He has insulted the gods of our ancestors. For this grave sin, the gods will surely punish him.
I want to mete out divine justice to Pharaoh by overthrowing him and exiling him, restoring the religion of our ancestors. If we don't act now, in 100 years there will be no one left even to remember our faith.
Arzamas fell into deep thought.
Kahraman, what do you truly want? To restore the lost honor of our ancestral faith, or to seize the throne?
Arzamas had struck a sensitive nerve. But Kahraman, being cunning, hid his true intentions and said,
I have no interest in Egypt's throne. I only wish to restore the lost dignity of our ancestors' religion. I want idol worship to flourish again in the temples. I want hymns of praise to our gods to echo once more in every home. And that can only happen if Pharaoh is removed from power. I don't care who becomes Pharaoh after that, as long as he does not interfere in our religion.
Arzamas, however, understood that Kahraman had no true interest in religion. He was after the throne. But he kept his thoughts hidden. He too wanted idol worship to resume so his livelihood would continue. Whoever became Pharaoh didn't matter to him. He nodded and said,
You are right, Kahraman. If this is your true belief, then I stand with you. All the priests of Egypt are with you. We can no longer tolerate the humiliation of our religion.
That is exactly what I want, and that is what I will act upon.
After this agreement, Kahraman took the high priest back to the city. Inside the palace, a conspiracy against Pharaoh Akhenaten began to brew. High priest Arzamas and General Kahraman recruited many of the top courtiers to their cause. They only awaited the right moment to strike. They were aware that part of the army deeply respected the kind-hearted Pharaoh for his humanitarian reforms. Akhenaten had increased salaries for some officers, doubled their food rations, and built beautiful houses for their families along the banks of the Nile. Kahraman began spreading poison in the army to counter this loyalty, claiming that Pharaoh had bribed certain soldiers to secure their allegiance. The priests also spread the rumor that the gods were angry with Pharaoh Akhenaten. Amber was very pleased with Pharaoh's reforms. He deeply admired Akhenaten's honesty, compassion, and belief in the one God. But being outside the palace, Amber could do little to help. However, he had learned of Kahraman's conspiracy and wanted to assist the king at the right opportunity. Pharaoh Akhenaten had a habit of waking up at midnight, bathing, dressing in fresh clothes, and going alone to the riverbank near the dunes to pray on a carpet laid on the ground. Kahraman was aware of this habit and devised a plan to assassinate the pharaoh. He stationed a loyal soldier with a bow and arrow behind the dunes, instructing him to kill the pharaoh as soon as he began his prayer. Amber knew that Kahraman was preparing to rebel against the king, intending to assassinate the righteous pharaoh and seize the throne for himself. One day, to uncover Kahraman's plans, Amber visited him at his home. Seeing Amber, Kahraman was delighted. He served him roasted peacock meat and engaged in casual conversation. Amber deliberately made his face look sad. Kahraman asked,
"What's the matter, Amber? You seem very sad today."
Amber heaved a fake sigh and said,
Kahraman, what can I tell you? Ever since Pharaoh Akhenaten ascended the throne, I have been deeply troubled. Whenever I think that the ancient religion of our forefathers will be destroyed, my heart sinks into the depths of sorrow. Akhenaten has no right to destroy the religion of our ancestors, break the idols of our gods, and throw them out of the temples.
Kahraman was delighted to find that Amber shared his views and was against Pharaoh Akhenaten. He placed his hand on Amber's shoulder and said,
"I, too, am greatly disturbed by this, Amber, and so is the entire populace. All the priests and courtiers are anxious. They can never tolerate Akhenaten's ruthless attack on our religion."
A ruthless attack has already taken place, Kahraman. Right now, there is not a single idol of our gods left in any temple across Egypt. Do you think if we remain negligent, the wrath of the gods will not descend upon us?
The wrath will surely come.
Then what is the remedy? How can we regain the favor of the gods? What steps can we take to save our ancient and ancestral faith from destruction?
Kahraman pondered whether he should reveal his plan to Amber or not. He decided it was not yet the right time. He said,
"That is for the populace, priests, and courtiers to decide. I am just a soldier. My duty is to protect the country. What can I tell you? You must think about what you should do to save our faith."
Amber understood that Kahraman did not want to involve him. Kahraman was very cunning. Sensing this, Amber decided not to press the matter further, and after a little more small talk, he returned to his mansion. Amber was disturbed. He was now convinced that Kahraman was planning to assassinate the kind-hearted Pharaoh Akhenaten and seize the throne for himself. Amber wanted to protect Akhenaten from Kahraman's plot. He thought about revealing his true identity to his mother, Queen Nefertiti, and warning her about the conspiracy. He spent the night tossing and turning in his bed, unable to sleep. Finally, he got up and left his mansion to walk along the bank of the Nile. Fearing the danger of wild animals at night, he slung his bow and arrows over his shoulder. The night was very pleasant, and the cool breeze had a soothing effect on Amber. As he walked farther along the riverbank, the calm waters of the Nile flowed silently, reflecting the twinkling stars. As Amber wandered among the sandy dunes, he entered an open plain and saw a young man dressed in white, seated on a carpet, with his hands raised toward the sky in prayer. Nearby, a chariot was parked. Suddenly, it occurred to Amber that the man might be none other than Pharaoh Akhenaten himself. He had heard that the pharaoh often visited the Nile at night to pray. Amber hid behind a small dune and watched. His guess was correct. It was indeed Pharaoh Akhenaten, kneeling on the carpet with his hands raised to the heavens, engrossed in prayer. Seeing this, Amber's heart filled with love for God. Lost in this sight, Amber suddenly noticed a shadow creeping from the dunes toward the pharaoh. Amber became alert. The shadow crept closer behind the pharaoh. Amber's instincts warned him of a dreadful plot unfolding. Just as the shadow stood up behind the pharaoh and pulled out a gleaming dagger from a leather belt, Amber reacted. As the assassin raised the dagger to strike, Amber swiftly knocked an arrow, pulled back his bow, and let it fly. The arrow struck the assassin in the back, piercing through him. The attacker collapsed onto the sand, writhing in pain. Amber rushed from behind the dune to the pharaoh's side. The pharaoh, still deep in prayer, had no idea that an attempt on his life had just been made. When he finished praying, he saw Amber and a dead soldier lying on the ground. He asked,
"Who killed him?"
Amber bowed low 3 times and explained the entire incident. Only then did Pharaoh Akhenaten realize that Amber had saved his life. Overjoyed, he took Amber's hand and said,
"You have saved my life, young man. Tell me, what do you wish for? Whatever you ask, I will grant it, for I am Pharaoh, the king of Egypt."
Amber bowed again and replied, "Thanks to the great Lord, I have everything I need, your majesty. I thank the great Lord that I came here while walking and saved your life by chance."
Life and death are in the hands of God alone. He alone gives life and causes death. He willed to save me tonight and sent you with a bow and arrow. What is your name?
Amber, your majesty.
What do you do?
I am a physician, your majesty. I treat the sick with herbs.
Very well. From today you are our royal physician. Do you accept this position?
Amber had been waiting for this opportunity. He immediately bowed deeply and said,
"What greater honor could there be for me, your majesty? I will feel proud to serve you."
The pharaoh took off a ring and gave it to Amber, saying,
"Come to the palace tomorrow morning. This ring will grant you access to me without any hindrance."
Pharaoh Akhenaten then mounted his chariot and rode back to the palace. Amber stood for a while, staring at the assassin's body, then realized it was unwise to linger, as the assassin's accomplices might arrive. He left, crossed the dunes, followed the riverbank, and returned to his mansion. Back at his mansion, Amber spent the rest of the night reflecting on the event. It was his good fortune that the pharaoh had appointed him royal physician, solving the problem of how he would gain access to the palace. Now he anxiously awaited the morning. The royal court, the court of Pharaoh Akhenaten, was in session. The pharaoh had not yet arrived. His magnificent golden throne was empty, covered by a golden canopy adorned with the finest jewels. 2 black Nubian slaves stood respectfully, holding large white feathered fans. The court was filled with nobles, ministers, high-ranking military officers, foreign ambassadors, priests, politicians, intellectuals, and the country's elite. All were dressed in royal garments and seated on chairs of gold and silver, waiting for the pharaoh's arrival. The commander-in-chief, Kahraman, was also present, wearing his royal uniform. Amber, clad in luxurious garments, was seated among the courtiers. Under Pharaoh Akhenaten, Egypt had flourished immensely. It was a peak era of ancient Egyptian civilization. The Great Pyramids had already been built. The nation was prosperous. People worked diligently. Dams controlled floods from the Nile. Ambassadors from every civilized nation were present in the pharaoh's court. Akhenaten had expanded his empire to the shores of the Mediterranean by conquering several countries. At that time, Egypt was the greatest power on earth. The splendor of the pharaoh's court reflected the grandeur, authority, and magnificence of the world's supreme monarch. Kahraman had realized that Amber had killed the assassin he sent, and thus foiled his plot to kill Pharaoh. He was deeply upset that his conspiracy had failed because of his close friend. Had Amber not killed the assassin that night, Kahraman would now be seated on Egypt's throne instead of Akhenaten. However, he could not say anything to Amber. Nonetheless, this bitterness was etched into his heart, and he began to hate Amber. Seeing Amber elevated to the prestigious position of royal physician only intensified that hatred. But Carmen kept his true feelings to himself, smiling at Amber as he entered the royal court. Upon seeing him, he embraced Amber and congratulated him warmly.
You have performed a brave act, Amber. You have earned his love and favor by saving the pharaoh's life. My prayers will always be with you. You will go far in life.
Thank you, Kahraman. You are my dearest friend. If there is no joy at this moment, then when will there ever be? I am deeply grateful for your prayers.
Despite these words, Amber's heart was not completely clear regarding Kahraman. He knew that Kahraman was upset with him because by saving the pharaoh's life, he had ruined Kahraman's plans. Still, he was speaking to Kahraman with friendliness. At that moment, hundreds of trumpets blared loudly, announcing the arrival of Pharaoh Akhenaten into the court of Egypt. The entire court stood up respectfully. Previously, when the pharaoh entered the court, all the courtiers would fall to the ground in prostration. But Akhenaten had forbidden them from doing so, believing that prostration should only be performed before God. The curtains of silk and brocade parted, and Pharaoh Akhenaten entered the court accompanied by his beloved wife, Queen Nefertiti, Amber's mother, along with servants and guards. A majestic aura filled the air, and a deep silence fell over the court. The pharaoh and the queen, adorned in royal robes embroidered with golden threads and wearing golden crowns, seated themselves on the throne. The attendants stood respectfully with their heads bowed. Slaves began waving fans of peacock feathers. With a signal from the pharaoh, the courtiers sat back down. The court was so silent that even a heavy breath could be heard. The minister of the court stepped forward, kissed the throne, and said,
"Your Majesty, gifts have been presented in your service from Queen Nobia."
At this, Assyrian and Sudanese slaves entered carrying trays of gold and silver and placed them before King Akhenaten. These trays were filled with silk from China, black leopard skins from Sudan, frankincense and amber from the Mediterranean, pure pearls from Yemen, musk from the black deer of Samarkand. jewels from Africa, emeralds from Golconda, and gold coins mined from Nubia. Following this, a gift of Indian and Babylonian maidens was presented on behalf of the Emperor of Samaria. However, Akhenaten, with gratitude, ordered that they be sent back.
Send a message of thanks to the Emperor of Samaria and inform him that we have freed all our maidens. We do not require such gifts.
The ambassador from Samaria bowed respectfully and said, "As you command, sovereign of the world." When the minister of the court tried to present the gifts received from the land of Syria, Pharaoh gestured with his hand to stop and said, "Present the young man who saved our life in the desert last night." A sudden silence fell over the court. The face of General Kaharman turned pale. The chief priest Arshams also lost color. They felt as if the Pharaoh had uncovered their conspiracy and would now order their execution. Kaharman thought that if an order for his death was given, he would immediately move forward, kill the Pharaoh, and seize the throne, come what may. Kaharman was a brave general. He had the courage to carry out such an act. The minister of the court struck the staff on the floor and proclaimed,
"The young man Amber shall be presented before His Majesty the Pharaoh."
Amber stood up from his chair among the rows of courtiers, came forward, and bowed respectfully 3 times before standing upright. The Pharaoh said,
"We know that some people conspired against us and tried to kill us simply because we ordered ignorance to be removed from the land and for the worship of the one supreme God to be established. We have saved our country, nation, and religion from sin. We have taken a righteous step and we shall not turn back. God intended for our life to be spared, and He sent this young man to save us. We are pleased with this young man, and today before the entire court, we declare that Amber shall be our royal physician."
At this announcement, the attendants loudly blew the trumpets to proclaim Amber's appointment as royal physician. The Pharaoh removed a precious necklace of diamonds and pearls from his neck and placed it around Amber's neck himself.
"This is your reward from us. From today, you are appointed to a high post in our court. You will treat the royal family, and you shall be our friend."
Your Majesty, I am grateful for the honor you have bestowed upon me. If God wills, I shall fulfill this duty to the best of my ability.
The Pharaoh then declared, "The court is dismissed." Since that moment, Queen Nefertiti had been watching Amber closely. Her maternal instincts were stirred once again. She felt as if this was her own son, Amber. The court dispersed. The Pharaoh, accompanied by the Queen, proceeded towards the royal chambers. The courtiers stepped forward to congratulate Amber. The chief priest looked at him with envy, while Kaharman, feigning affection, embraced him and said,
"Congratulations, Amber. By the great God, today is the happiest day of my life. You truly deserve the position of royal physician. Tonight, there will be a grand feast in your honor."
This grand feast was held at Kaharman's luxurious mansion. Besides the courtiers, all the distinguished citizens of the city were present. Dishes and platters of food were set everywhere. Guests were laughing, chatting, and eating. Talala was also present at the feast. When Amber looked at her, she smiled, came forward, and congratulated him.
Congratulations, Amber. I hope you will remember us in the court as well.
Amber did not reply and moved on to converse with other courtiers. Talala then signaled Kaharman to come aside.
"What's the matter, Talala?" Why is Amber upset with you? I'm meeting you after a long time. Did you two have a quarrel?
Come with me to the fig trees. I want to tell you a secret.
Kahraman followed Talalala to the grove of fig trees and sat on a marble platform.
Tell me, what is this secret you wish to share?
Listen, Kahraman, the young man Amber whom you consider your friend, do you know whose son he really is?
He's the son of Rigjal, the master architect.
Wrong. He's not Rigjal's son. Listen to me carefully. Amber is the Prince of Egypt. He possesses the royal seal of the Pharaoh.
What did you say? Amber is the Prince of Egypt?
Yes, he has the Pharaoh's royal seal.
How do you know this?
He showed me the seal himself.
Talalala explained and then told Kahraman the entire story. How Amber had proposed marriage to her. How she had tricked him into giving up his surgical instruments and had him thrown out of the house by her slaves. And how, afterward, Amber showed her the royal seal and revealed that the young man she had rejected was in fact the Prince of Egypt. Kahraman fell into deep thought, then waved his hand and said,
No, how can this be? I have known Amber since childhood. He was born in Rigjal's house. We were little boys playing by the riverside together. How can he possibly be the Prince of Egypt? He must have stolen that seal from somewhere.
Whatever the case may be, he has the royal seal. You need to be very careful around him, Kahraman.
Talala, Kahraman is a brave general. He fears no one, but others should indeed fear him.
He arrived at the gathering. Kahraman began conversing with Amber. Then he took him aside. Talalala's words had created a kind of unease in Kahraman's heart. It was true that he feared no one, but the fact that Amber possessed Pharaoh's royal seal was not without danger. If somehow the seal could come into Kahraman's hands, he could greatly benefit from it. He asked Amber,
Amber, you are my childhood friend. If I ask you something, will you tell me the truth?
Of course, I will tell you the truth. What do you want to ask?
Do you have Pharaoh's royal seal? And if you do, where did you get it from?
Amber, under no circumstances, wanted to reveal the truth about the royal seal to Kahraman. He immediately replied,
Someone must have misinformed you, my friend. How could I possibly have the royal seal?
Talala told me.
Ah, now I understand. I once showed Talala a fake seal. When she refused to marry me, I said, to spite her, that I possessed the royal seal and was the Prince of Egypt. Imagine, Kahraman, did you believe that? After growing up with me, could you believe I was a prince?
I was surprised myself. Since Amber had grown up before my eyes, how could he suddenly be an Egyptian prince?
Amber thanked the Almighty that he had cleverly and skillfully removed the doubt that Talala had planted in Kahraman's mind. But it was a delusion, because suspicion about Amber still took root in Kahraman's heart. After all, how did Amber truly come to possess the royal seal? Kahraman decided he would thoroughly investigate the matter. The banquet ended late at night. Amber returned to his mansion and lay down. Exhausted, he quickly fell asleep. The next day, wearing royal robes and riding a royal chariot, he arrived at Pharaoh's court. All the courtiers congratulated him on attending the court for the first time. Amber's eyes searched for Kahraman, but he was nowhere to be seen. As Amber stood, a high priest passed by, holding a royal staff and murmuring incantations. Amber asked him,
"Revered priest, do you know where Kahraman is?"
The high priest stopped, glanced at Amber arrogantly, and said, "What business do we have with the general? How would we know where he is?" Saying this, the priest moved on. Amber wondered why the priest was so arrogant and dismissive. Was it possible he hated Amber because Kahraman had won him over? He began to suspect that the high priest might also be involved in the conspiracy to murder Pharaoh. Just then, a dark-eyed maid signaled Amber to follow her and moved ahead. At first, Amber hesitated, thinking about what others might think of him following the maid. But when she gestured again from behind the pillars, he couldn't resist. He followed her. She led him toward the back of the royal palace, into a garden filled with trees and flowering plants worldwide. Marble fountains flowed everywhere. Inside a grand marble pavilion, there was a statue of Pharaoh. To the right was the rear section of the royal harem, where the queen lived with her countless maids and servants. Black-skinned Ethiopian guards stood at the doors, alert with drawn swords. Amber paused for a moment. Seeing him hesitate, the maid came close and said,
"My lord, do not worry. Queen is awaiting you."
Amber's heart began to race, as if he were finally going to meet his real mother after 15 years. His heart was overwhelmed with motherly love. He said nothing and quietly followed the maid into the palace. Seeing the maid with Amber, the guards bowed and stepped aside, making way for him. Amber climbed the wide, beautiful staircase and reached the upper floor. At the end of the corridor was the queen's royal chamber, guarded by eunuchs. Seeing Amber approach with the maid, they opened the door. Inside, the Queen of Egypt sat on a magnificent throne. She was of middle age, and signs of aging had started to appear on her face. The queen looked at Amber closely and motioned for him to sit down. The murder of Pharaoh. The queen, Nafriti, gestured for the maid to leave. The maid bowed and exited. Now, only the mother and son remained alone. The queen called Amber close, made him sit beside her, and asked,
"Amber, are you certain that you are the son of Rigjal?"
Amber looked at the queen, his mother, and tears welled up in his eyes. His heart longed to fall at her feet. He bowed his head. The queen had seen the tears in his eyes. She placed her hand on his head. Amber felt a deep wave of maternal love in his blood. Lifting his tearful eyes, he said,
"Your Majesty, the dervish in Atul told me that I was found floating in a tiny boat on the Nile River. One morning, my adoptive parents rescued me and raised me as their own."
Tears shimmered on the queen's lashes. She said,
"There was a royal seal in that boat as well."
"The seal is with me, Your Majesty. My father gave it to me before he died, along with a letter stating that I was not his biological son but a prince of Egypt."
Amber pulled out the letter and the royal seal from his royal cloak and placed them before the queen. The queen carefully read the letter and examined the seal. Then, embracing Amber, she cried out,
My son, if your father had not ordered your death, how could I have separated from you? I entrusted you to the river with a heavy heart and prayed fervently to the Almighty to protect you and bring you back to me. Today, He has answered my prayers. Today is the golden day of my life, the day my lost treasure has returned to me."
"Mother, I also consider myself the luckiest person in the world to be reunited with you after so long. I could never have found you if my father had still been alive.
The queen summoned Charmin, an older woman now. When Charmin entered, the queen said,
Charmin, this is my son Amber. You were the one who placed him in the boat when he was barely a day old. Doesn't he have the same features as my child?
Your Majesty, I always told you that Amber is your son. His eyes are blue, just like your child's were. And besides, the royal seal could belong only to your child.
Charmin, my son is back. Had I died without seeing him, my soul would never have found peace. Now I can die peacefully.
Do not speak of death, my mother. I will never let you die.
You do not know what vile conspiracies are brewing in the court against Pharaoh Akhenaten and me. Akhenaten is a naive ruler, and most of the court has turned against him. The high priest and the general are plotting a rebellion together.
I am aware of it, Your Majesty.
Then what can you do for this, my son?
In fact, we must all join forces to thwart this conspiracy. Kahraman is playing a very dangerous game. His intention is to kill Pharaoh of Egypt and me and seize the throne by force. He will never succeed in his evil plans, Mother. I will confront him, you will confront him, we will all confront him together.
The high priest and a large part of the army are on his side. Amber.
So what, Mother? We will resist Kahraman's evil ambitions no matter what.
Queen Nefertiti kissed her son's forehead and said,
You truly are my brave son, Amber. You are a courageous and daring prince. I know you will never let harm come to your parents' throne and honor, but you are underestimating the strength of Kahraman and the high priest. They have gathered many courtiers around them. To fight them, we must act with great intelligence and strategy.
Command me as you wish, Mother. I am ready.
I believe we must win over the minor priest and the minister of the court. They can easily be rallied against Kahraman and the high priest. That is my task. I will summon both of them separately today and speak to them.
But Mother, why would they risk opposing the general and the high priest?
I will make the minister's son the commander of the army and promote the minor priest to the rank of high priest. I believe this strategy will work. But there's one thing we must be very careful about. No one in the court must know yet that you, my son, have met me. That's why I summoned you to the palace today in great secrecy.
It shall be as you wish, Mother.
Now, my son, you may leave. Come meet me again tomorrow evening. I will be waiting for you.
Amber touched his mother's feet in respect and departed. Shortly after, the royal court was held. Pharaoh Akhenaten and Queen Nefertiti appeared on their thrones amidst loud cheers. In the court, Pharaoh offered Amber a seat along with other dignitaries, and after the necessary proceedings, the court was dismissed. During the session, Queen Nefertiti cast careful glances at Amber, silently reminding him not to reveal the secret of their meeting. After the court dispersed, Kahraman made small talk with Amber and then left for the royal guest house. Outside the guest house, near the fig trees, a priest and a special servant of Pharaoh waited with a chariot for Kahraman. Kahraman joined them, and they headed toward the fortress. beneath the northern tower of an ancient pyramid ruin, they began their secret meeting. The meeting's purpose was to finalize when, that very night, Pharaoh and Queen would be killed.
I think they should be poisoned after midnight.
Kahraman pondered. He preferred to kill them earlier in the night. Handing a pouch of gold coins to Pharaoh's special servant, he said,
"Here's your reward. Once you complete your task, you will be promoted to head of the royal kitchen. Your task is to secretly poison only the Pharaoh's and the Queen's food tonight. This poison is tasteless and will take effect instantly. Succeed, and you'll be further rewarded."
The special servant took the poison vial from Kahraman, tucked it into his pocket, and vowed, "By the god Zeus, tonight shall be the last night of Pharaoh and the Queen. Tomorrow they will no longer exist."
Excellent.
After a brief consultation, Kahraman and the high priest left. Kahraman's plot was terrifying. The plan was to announce Pharaoh's death immediately after his murder, seize the throne, seal the borders, place foreign envoys under guard, and publicly execute Pharaoh's supporters. Meanwhile, unaware of the looming danger, Pharaoh was peacefully praying to the great god in his palace's sanctuary, humbly lifting his hands to the sky. Queen Nefertiti, meanwhile, was chatting with Charmin in her luxurious bedchamber, weaving fine thread made from the wool of a Khorasan deer, while sweet scents of amber and incense filled the air. She had already confided in Charmin and secretly won over the minor priest and court minister against Kahraman and the high priest. However, fate had its own plans. As dinner time approached, so did the hour of death. Pharaoh and Queen Nefertiti always dined together. That evening, as usual, handmaidens washed the queen's hands and dried them with a Kashmiri silk shawl, adorned her hair with a garland of white lotus pearls, and led her to the dining hall. Pharaoh entered from the other side. They greeted each other warmly and sat at the golden table where exquisite dishes were laid out, roasted meats of every bird, sweets, and fruits from every corner of the world. As they began eating, the special servant waited for the right moment, knowing that the Pharaoh and Queen loved the black grape juice from Sudan, traditionally served after meals. He had saved the poison specifically for that. The meal lasted for 2 hours. Meanwhile, Kahraman had instructed his officers, and the high priest had rallied his supporters. Kahraman, hidden with the high priest in the royal palace's pavilion, watched eagerly. After the meal, Pharaoh signaled for grape juice. The special servant bowed respectfully, slipped behind the curtains, poured a deadly drop of poison into each goblet, and returned, presenting them on a golden tray. Kahraman and the high priest watched breathlessly from behind the lattice. Pharaoh and Queen smiled at each other, raised the goblets, and drank, completely unaware of the deadly venom hidden within. The moment they finished, they began to feel unwell. They looked at each other in alarm, but it was too late. The deadly poison had taken effect. Sweat broke out on their hands, their tongues became stone, their bodies went cold, and they collapsed lifeless onto the lavish carpets. At once, panic erupted. Servants and handmaidens screamed. Chaos spread. A loyal Nubian slave rushed toward Kahraman with a dagger, but Kahraman, with one swift stroke of his sword, cut him down. Then no one dared move. Kahraman immediately marched to the royal council chamber. The news of Pharaoh's death had spread, and loyal courtiers were shouting in protest. Kahraman began killing the Pharaoh's supporters one by one until, After 10 or 11 deaths, the others surrendered. Meanwhile, the army, lured by promises of higher wages, had joined Kahraman. The high priest killed the deputy priest and secured support from all sides, declaring that Pharaoh was dead and that the old religion had been restored under the new Pharaoh, Kahraman. Standing in the center of the court, Kahraman declared himself Pharaoh. The hall fell silent. He placed the golden crown on his head and, with his loyal commanders, ascended the throne. Soldiers and courtiers cheered. Kahraman had been accepted as the Pharaoh of Egypt. "You will not die." Kahraman then secretly buried Akhenaten and Queen Nefriti's bodies in an ancient pyramid by night. The next morning, Amber woke and headed to the palace, unaware of the tragedy. He was to meet with his mother to discuss important matters. But upon arrival, he received the devastating news. Kahraman had murdered Pharaoh and the queen and seized the throne. Amber was stunned, but it was too late to act. The snake had escaped, the arrow had flown. He could do nothing but mourn in silence. He couldn't even express his grief publicly, as Kahraman had already crushed all opposition through ruthless slaughter. Amber knew he had no choice but to congratulate Kahraman, biding his time for revenge. His heart wept tears of blood for his mother's death. He buried his grief deep within and went to Kahraman's palace to offer congratulations. Kahraman, sitting behind a golden table with the royal crown before him, heard approaching footsteps. Quickly, he drew his sword, but seeing Amber, he hesitated. A thought crossed his mind. Should he kill Amber right now? He knew Amber was Queen Nefriti's son, the rightful heir to the throne. Amber could someday plot against him. But then Kahraman reconsidered. In the face of his own power, Amber was insignificant. Forcing a fake smile, Kahraman extended his hand. Amber, masking his sorrow with an artificial smile, shook his hand firmly and said,
"Congratulations, my friend, on ascending the throne of Egypt. I hope you will be a kind-hearted and compassionate king for your subjects. The people's sympathies are with you because Akhenaten had tried to destroy the religion of the masses, which was something that could never be tolerated."
Kahraman was well aware that Amber was lying. In reality, Amber was not happy at all about Kahraman becoming Pharaoh. Rather, he was deeply grieved that Kahraman had killed his mother, the queen, and seized the throne. But he did not reveal his true feelings to Amber. Laughing loudly and puffing out his chest, he said,
"Amber, I have seized the throne of Egypt with the strength of my arm. Akhenaten committed the grave crime of opposing the people's religion and received his due punishment. I have restored the old religion of the people. Now, in temples, homes, and royal worship places, the old idols will once again be worshipped. The people are pleased with me, and soon I will celebrate my coronation."
It felt like someone had squeezed Amber's heart upon hearing about the coronation. It hurt him deeply because the crown and throne were rightfully his. The crown that now rested on Kahraman's head belonged to Amber. But fate had ruled against Amber and in favor of Kahraman. Yet Amber believed that justice would someday prevail, for though divine justice may be delayed, it is never denied. He said, feigning happiness,
"I eagerly await the day of your coronation, Kahraman. You are my old friend. Who could be happier than I?"
Of course, I will give you many reasons to rejoice." I will achieve so many victories that you must celebrate my success at every step, and seeing you celebrate will bring me the greatest joy.
Amber understood very well that Kahraman was mocking him, trying to ignite the fire of jealousy within him, trying to torment his heart. But Amber had no choice but to endure patiently. Kahraman placed a hand on Amber's shoulder and said,
"My friend, you need not worry. Your position at court will remain intact."
Thank you, Kahraman. I expected this justice from you.
Suddenly, Kahraman said in a sharp tone,
"This is not justice, Amber. This is my favor toward you." Justice demanded something else. You would not have been pleased if I had acted justly regarding you. But I chose friendship over justice and kept your position.
Seizing the moment, Amber said humbly,
I am deeply grateful to your majesty for this kindness.
At that moment, the chief priest and the court minister entered. The minister immediately said, I need to speak to your majesty in private. Kahraman looked at Amber and said,
You may leave now.
Amber bowed respectfully and left the royal chamber. After exiting, he headed straight toward the private court. Through casual conversations, he tried his best to find out where the new pharaoh had buried the bodies of the former pharaoh Akhenaten and Queen Nafriti. But no one could tell him. No one knew where the bodies had been buried after their assassination. Amber mounted his horse outside the royal palace and seemingly set off toward his home. But in truth, he was heading to visit the sage Anatul. To avoid being followed by the pharaoh's spies, he first took the path leading to his mansion. Reaching a grove of date palms, he looked back. When he was sure no one was following him, he turned his horse toward Anatul's hut. Riding swiftly along the banks of the Nile, he soon reached the sage's hut. At that time, Anatul was sitting under the shade of pomegranate trees outside his hut, deep in prayer. Amber dismounted and sat on the sand, waiting for Anatul to finish. After completing his prayers, Anatul saw Amber, stood up, and embraced him. Amber was about to speak, but Anatul placed a hand over his mouth and said,
I know everything, my son Amber. You don't need to tell me anything. I am deeply grieved by the deaths of your uncle and mother, the Queen. Your friend Kahraman has committed a grave and horrifying injustice by killing them. He has called down his own destruction. He will not sit on the throne for long. In the end, every tyrant faces divine punishment. God's law is true. He never forgives the oppressor.
My lord, the greatest injustice done to me is that I do not even know where my mother and uncle are buried. Kahraman, fearing that people might begin to worship them, secretly buried them after killing them, or perhaps even threw their bodies into the river. Only God knows.
The spirits of the king and queen will surely take their revenge on Kahraman.
Before they take their revenge, I wish to take mine. Right now, my wings are clipped. I am helpless, alone, and without support. But soon, with the grace of God, I will have an army and a court by my side, and I will cut off Kahraman's head and reclaim my rightful throne, the crown and kingdom of Egypt.
If God wills, so shall it be, Anatul said. But for now, Amber, you must act patiently and wisely. You must wait for the right moment.
Amber lowered his head, tears filling his eyes, and said,
Oh, venerable one, please tell me, where's my mother's grave?
Upon hearing this question, Anatul closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the sand, entering deep meditation. After a long time, He opened his eyes and said,
Amber, I see the graves of your mother and uncle in the ruins of the pyramid of your great-great-grandfather. You can go there and pray for them. These ruins are located to the northeast of the city.
Thank you, sage. I will go there immediately to offer my prayers.
Taking leave from Anatul, Amber mounted his horse and set off for the pyramid's ruins. He reached there before sunset. The ruins were desolate and abandoned. Tying his horse outside, he entered the pyramid. Inside it was cold, damp, and dark. Lighting a torch, he moved forward carefully. Suddenly, a bird flew out from one side, fluttering over his head, and at the exact moment, he heard a voice.
"O Prince, have you come in search of your mother, the Queen's grave?"
Amber felt as if the voice belonged to the spirit of his ancestor. He replied,
Yes, O holy voice, the Lord bless you with his mercy. Guide me and tell me where my mother's grave is.
But for that, you must agree to a condition. If you accept my condition, I will lead you to your mother's grave. If not, you will wander these caves forever, never finding her grave.
Tell me your condition. I will accept it.
You must raise both hands and say, O Lord Zeus, grant me eternal life, forbid death from me.
How? How can this be?
Then you shall wander these caves for the rest of your life.
No, no. Don't do that. I accept. Amber said urgently. O Lord Zeus, grant me eternal life, forbid death upon me.
Look below. The grave of your mother lies before you.
Amber bent down and saw two graves in a pit. One grave bore his mother's name, and the other had the name of his uncle, Pharaoh carved on it. He raised his hands and prayed for both graves. Before leaving the cave, he addressed the voice.
O voice, tell me why you granted me eternal life.
So that I may escape the eternal torment of hell. Listen, now you must reach the river late at night. There, a ship will be waiting for you, the ship of eternal life. You must board it. If you fail to honor your oath and condition, your mother's soul will be subjected to severe torment until the day of judgment.
I will surely reach there. O great Lord, protect my mother's soul from torment.
At the name of the great Lord, another satanic laugh erupted, like rocks tumbling down a mountain peak. Then the voice disappeared. Amber exited the cave. His torch had extinguished and fallen somewhere inside. Mounting his horse, he returned directly to his mansion. He was deeply astonished. How could it be possible that he would live forever and never die? To test it, he took a dagger and made a small scratch on his arm. To his amazement, although the skin was cut, not a single drop of blood emerged, and the wound healed instantly on its own. As he was still pondering this, he heard horses stopping outside and the sound of footsteps inside the mansion. The door burst open, and two soldiers, swords drawn, advanced towards him. In the name of the Pharaoh of Egypt, we arrest you. We have orders to capture you and bury you alive in the earth. At first, Amber was stunned. Then it struck him. Since he could not die, why not fight back? With that thought, he drew his sword. The two soldiers lunged at him. A fierce battle ensued. Though Amber was skilled in swordsmanship, the soldiers were no less competent. It was a 2-to-1 battle. Sometimes Amber gained the upper hand, and sometimes the soldiers pushed him back to the wall. Finally, after a successful move, Amber delivered a powerful strike and severed one soldier's head. Enraged by his companion's death, the second soldier attacked with full force, aiming at Amber's neck. The sword struck directly, but instead of cutting through, it clanged off like it had hit an iron shield, making a sharp sound, and Amber's neck remained unscathed. The soldier's eyes widened in shock. He had struck with such force that even a rock would have shattered, but Amber's neck showed not even a scratch. Amber plunged his sword into the soldier's heart, taking advantage of the soldier's fear. With a scream, the soldier fell dead. Amber sheathed his sword, glanced around his mansion, mounted his horse, and rode swiftly toward the river. He feared the Pharaoh's army might be hunting for him. Though he was now immortal, he still feared being buried alive, thinking he might suffocate. Little did he know he could survive thousands of years buried underground, without breath, food, or drink. It was well past midnight when he reached the banks of the Nile. There, a small sailing ship was anchored, lights glowing aboard, and sailors' songs echoed over the water. While he was wondering whom to call, a small boat approached him, and an older sailor said, "Come aboard, we have been waiting for you." Amber silently boarded the boat, which ferried him to the sailing ship. Climbing aboard via a ladder, he saw sailors singing and busy with their duties. As Amber boarded, the ship's captain ordered the anchor raised, and the ship began its journey on the river. They sailed all night and into the next day, eventually reaching the open sea. During this time, no one spoke to Amber. Everyone was occupied with their work. If Amber tried to talk to anyone, they would just look at him, smile silently, and continue their tasks. Night fell, and a storm swept across the sea. By morning, the storm had calmed. When the sun emerged from behind the clouds, Amber stepped out of his wooden cabin onto the deck and was stunned to find no sailors aboard. He rushed to the captain's cabin. It was empty. He descended below deck, still no one. The ship's oars were moving by themselves, and the sound of sailor songs could still be heard, but not a single sailor was visible. He searched the entire ship. It was completely deserted. Then even the sailor song ceased. Yet the oars kept moving by themselves, and the ship floated aimlessly over the ocean waves toward some unknown destination. Amber realized he was now utterly alone, perhaps forever, on this empty and abandoned ship. Was he traveling from death toward life? Where did the empty ship take Amber? How did he take his revenge on the Pharaoh? Find out in the second part of this novel, The Destruction of the Pharaoh. To learn what happens next, and to understand all these events until evening falls. Stay tuned for the second part of the first episode of the Amber Naag Maria series, titled Queen of Egypt, in the next video. We kindly request that you subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon, and click on notifications. Please comment below and tell us how you like the story. Thank you.